Okay. So
So should we all introduce ourselves?
I
Maybe?
think so. Yeah. Welcome, introduction of members. So
I'm Nora. I'm a trustee. And I'm
Jason.
liaison.
I'm Jason. I work on the recreation supervisor for the Village of Mamaroneck.
I'm Marisa. I'm a 20+ year resident of Mamaroneck. I'm also a dog walker.
Barry, you're muted.
You're muted, Bear.
Elizabeth, you're muted as well.
Sorry.
Barry Castrella, General Foreman of Parks.
I'm Elizabeth. I moved here last year. Previously lived in Hong Kong, Singapore, and other parts of New York.
So really welcome.
Okay.
Tina Maraska. I've lived between here and Harrison all my life. I've been on the rec commission for about 1.5 years, I think.
Barry, Sergio. I've lived here my whole life. I grew up in Larchmont. Now I'm in Mamaroneck. And I have 2 kids in the Rhinebeck School District and a dog that I love with all my heart and super passionate about getting a dog park in the Village of Mamaroneck.
Great.
Cindy Fasolino. I've lived in Mamaroneck my whole life. My kids are 4th generation at the Rhinebeck School District. I have 2 doggies, which I love. So I'm passionate about this dog park as well.
Great.
And I have a dog too.
Okay.
Trustee Lucas, do you want to go over the mission statement?
Well, I wrote a mission statement, and did you send it? I didn't see. Anyway, I'm just going to read it. It's a draft. I thought we should get started because people are going to ask what the committee is. So I wrote, the Dog Park Subcommittee of the Recreation and Parks Commission was formed at the September 2nd, 2020 meeting of the Recreation and Parks Commission to evaluate the requirements and potential locations for a village dog park. The committee will work with staff, Jason Pinto, Recreation Supervisor, Barry Castrella, Head of the Parks Department, and Jerry Barbario, Village Manager, and make findings to the Recreation and Parks Department as soon as practicable. That sounds pretty reasonable. We talked about also, as we were out and about, thinking about how dogs could be incorporated in other parks, or which parks might be okay for that and which parks might not be okay for that, but that really wasn't part of what the mission was.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the mission is to have a safe, enclosed area for residents who have dogs, where they can bring their dogs to run off leash. That's my mission. I think that's everyone's mission. So it's not about dogs in other parks. This is really about creating an actual dog park, not just a place where you can bring your dog on a leash, but a place where you can have your dogs be off leash to socialize and do all those fun doggy things.
Maybe we should add off leash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually not looking at it in writing right now, Nora. So when I,
Or you know what, we'll circulate it. It's just so that we have like the elevator speech in case people are asking what we're doing. This is what it is. Okay. All right, well, we'll circulate it, and if we can figure it out for the next time. So we, I have to say, we have there's 5 members now, 2 from the public and 3 from the Park and Recs Commission. And there was another member who had asked to join and then decided not to. There's been a new person who wants to join. Her name is Gina Von Eith, and she actually has 4 dogs. She's very dog friendly, dog savvy, and she's a pretty thorough researcher. And I think it'd be, I think it would be good to have her perspective, because she certainly will be speaking up at public meetings. Like we have this proposed law, which is going to, I think, in 2 weeks, we are going to have the public hearing on the expanding dogs in Harbor Island Park, and she's been vocal about that. So I think she might be a good person, because she's a very good person for devil's advocate. So that might help with all of our discussions. So she's asked to join, and I guess the policy would be decided like amongst the Rec and Parks Commission at the next meeting. if there's going to be
Yeah.
another person.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
on the other hand, you're working with that person. So, and I don't even, 5:30, if this is going to be the time we meet, is even good for her. She's a paralegal who works at a firm in New York, but she's not there now. But she's a hard worker and a really good researcher, and she's a pretty good resource. So I think she'd be an asset.
There was one more, Hillary Short. Is she joining us?
She
She's
decided that she did
declined.
not want to. Yeah, she declined. I thought I sent that to everybody, but maybe I didn't. Oh, maybe I just sent it to the staff. She declined on Saturday. She decided she had too much to do. But once the rec commission and the village made a decision, she was going to happy to promote it on Facebook. So.
One thing that I think, yes, having someone else's perspective is good, but if she's if she's for a dog park, how is she bringing kind of the opposite view?
I think she's done a lot of research on dog parks, and she sort of has an idea of she's got a lot of background on safety, and she's used a lot of different dog parks. So I think her perspective is dog parks aren't always all they're cracked up to be, and so there's a lot of parameters to consider. And she says, as the staff will know, Gina is thorough, right? She's thorough. So.
And when you guys read through the document where we researched what other municipalities around our area, whether they have a dog park or not, and if they do have a dog park, what issues have they come up? We asked staff from other municipalities what were their main issues, and you can read through and see what their comments were. A whole slew of them. So that's helpful for us, so we know what kind of route we want to go when it comes to enforcement and safety and all that.
Oh yeah, I mean, dog parks aren't, there's pros and cons. There absolutely, it's just like anything else. You have bad seeds who create problems. You do have people who don't follow rules. I mean, there are definitely pros and cons. I'm just of the belief that the pros do outweigh the cons for something like this. But yeah, I mean, even I take my dog to Playland Beach, and sometimes I leave because I don't like the crowd, or I don't or dogs, bothering my dog, or my dog's not getting along with another dog. Not everybody is responsible like that. So you definitely will come across issues. You'll have it everywhere. But again, I think the pros of having it definitely outweigh the cons of not having it, especially when people seem to be desperate to bring their dogs somewhere and are willing to break rules to bring their dogs places. So,
Carrie, do you have to pay to go to Rye Beach, or is that open to anyone?
No, Playland Beach is open. Usually they open sometime by October. It depends on what the city has planned there. Sometimes they'll do a final event, then they close the beach. You don't have to pay there. Portchester Dog Park is also a free park. A lot of other parks you do have to pay for. You have to pay if you want to go to Ward Acres or New Rochelle. Harrison, you have to pay.
So that's my only concern with the dog park, or the one that we want to, try to get, is overcrowding and having, other people come in, and, because that's just a concern of mine.
Yeah, mine too. And I think part of what I think is really important, one of the rules of the dog park, unlike Portchester, should be that it's a resident dog park. Portchester did want their park to be a resident dog park. However, they received money from Pet Safe, an organization where they kind of won a contest. They received $25,000 from Pet Safe. One of the requirements of accepting that money was that it was a public dog park. So that's why I believe Portchester is public. I don't think that was the intent initially, but they accepted the money, and it was a big sum of money, and so that's why it's open. But I do think if we can keep whatever dog park we can create, if we can keep it a resident dog park, and figure out how to enforce that, whether it's a locked gate that people have to pay to have a key for. A code is easy, but people can give out a code. So I think it's something we have to decide on how we want to approach it and come up with the best way to handle that.
Harry, I think there are pros and cons to keeping it as a resident dog park. I think it's a great idea in theory. However, if you don't have dogs playing in a park, the dog park itself is kind of a useless park. So I know that Harrison is open to, is for residents and for outside people, but I would never bring a dog there unless I've arranged a play date with other people and their dogs, because there are never any dogs there. So there's, you're going to go through this entire process and you're going to create this beautiful park, hopefully, and there might not be many people there. So unless you open it up to, the surrounding towns, at least, you may just have a big field where no dogs are, are hardly ever there.
But then that's
possible.
That's a great point, but also if we're going to spend all this money on a park, why not have a section, and I know Barry's going to kill me, but a section at the Harbor Island, where we were talking about last week, or a few weeks ago, and have that section as the park, so we're not spending a lot of money on a new park for a dog.
I think that having a dog park there is probably not a good idea because, first of all, you're going to get a lot of pushback from the surrounding houses in that particular area. I think that a lot of people go there just to have a peaceful place. And this is coming from me. I'm all for a dog park.
Yeah.
I don't think you would be able to dedicate a large enough area, and then there's really no parking. You can't park along that area at all. There's very few streets that you can park on. So that's going to be a bigger issue with the residents there. What you might want to consider in that area is having what Rye Town Park does between 6 and 9 a.m. every morning. They allow people to come who have registered their dogs with the town to do off leash between 6 and 9 a.m. It's extremely successful. I've used it myself many, many times. The residents are really, on board with keeping it, keeping the rules in place and not abusing the privilege. So that might be a great idea. And you really wouldn't have to worry about enclosing or doing anything. You just open it up to residents or, even the outside people from surrounding towns between those hours. Whatever the hours are that you choose. But that would be
That's a great suggestion.
Marissa, are you suggesting that in lieu of an actual dog park?
No. I would, something to do, in conjunction with an actual dog park.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the Rye Town Park rules. With our last dog, we used to go there quite a bit in the early morning hours, like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, where your dog could run off leash, and it was great.
Yeah.
And I totally understand your point, but as far as pushback goes, it doesn't matter where we suggest a dog park.
No,
we're going to have the pushback. And that Rushmore area, which is the side that we were discussing, that is a huge piece of unused parcel of land next to that playground. I don't even ever see anybody on that playground. Every time I drive by, it's empty. What I do see are a lot of people there with their dogs. That's why, to me, it just kind of made logical sense. Just put it there because that's where people are already going with their dogs. Whereas the Taylor's Lane lot that everybody has been discussing, you do have a lot of people who are for it. You have the residents some residents, I shouldn't say all, I know several residents there who are all for it. But you also have the people saying, I don't think I would bring my dog there because it was a dump. And I'm worried about the land. So Taylor's Lane makes me a little bit more worried about that. Putting a dog park there, like you said before, create this beautiful dog park and no one goes to it. That would be worse to me. I totally agree. And as far as saying, okay, no one goes to it, I would at least like to start with a resident only dog park. And then if you find that it's not being utilized and you want to open it up to other areas, then look at that option. But I don't think I would start off that way.
Okay.
Can I ask, like the land that Jason pointed out last time, the one that's next to Taylor Lane, does that have the same dump issues?
No, it's not,
doesn't.
that wasn't capped. That wasn't part of the
Okay.
property.
No,
No.
it doesn't, but again, that requires us to spend money, more money.
Okay.
You'd have
And cut
to clear
down,
trees.
clear trees, which I'm sure, Nora, with that new law coming in, right?
No, well,
Probably not.
it's interesting. Well, I mean, Jerry could talk about this too, but the new law is to discourage people from tearing down mature trees without replanting other trees. That's the goal of it. And so, it's not that people can never take down a tree. But if you want to take down mature trees, you need to plant other trees to make up for it. It's just sort of to keep I think so. I think that actually this would be an example where you could evaluate what you don't have to strip every tree for a dog park. Dogs actually like trees.
Yeah,
No, yeah.
I was gonna say that,
So I
yeah.
think it actually might be a really good example of actually complying with the law, whether or not the law passes, just doing it in advance with the law so people could actually see what happens. I also want to say, not that we have an unlimited amount of money, we do have a recreation fee fund that we have not tapped previously. So all we've done is buy some new swings for Columbus Park, which is being installed soon. So there is some money, and one of the benefits to any of the places that we've discussed now are that the village owns them. So creating the dog park is probably a lot less expensive than buying property for a dog park.
Right.
And just to,
So-
on Nora's note, I would also say that I've spoken with Jerry about this process, and we can have the Parks Department do a lot of this work. It's not major construction, right? And
Right.
Jerry feels like we can have the Parks Department, who are talented, do a lot of this work in-house, and that's going to save us a lot of money. A lot. Instead of going to a contractor and have them doing everything, where we could do a bunch of work ourselves.
We
I mean-
probably do have to get someone to design it,
Yeah.
Guys,
And one
Guys,
of the things that Jason sent around today was the proposal from the woman who had been hired previously to look at dog parks. And that's kind of interesting because she sort of gives the methodology about what we need to do to plan a dog park.
Nora,
So-
I'm on. I'm just listening. I'm doing other things, but I'm
Hi,
listening.
Jerry.
Hi,
Okay.
Jerry.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So as far as what the village can do, can the village, can they handle the fencing? Can they handle putting in parking if we need it somewhere? And I'm not talking about, I don't think we need a paved parking lot necessarily. We can easily do a gravel area
Yeah,
where cars can
we can
park
do
on
all
the
that.
gravel. Is that something that the village can handle as opposed to hiring someone at a fence company, for example?
Yes. Yes, we can do that. I did that at my last job when I built the other dog park.
Good to know. Thanks.
Mhm.
Can you?
I'm just coming from a, sorry, who's talking?
Good. Go ahead.
I'm just coming from a concerned, what if, we're saying a lot of people want to use this dog park, right? And then we do that and then there's nobody coming in. So that's why I'm thinking Rushmore would be better since that's there, already in place. We just make a few adjustments. The parking's there. Dogs already show up according to Carrie.
Where's the parking on Rushmore?
Did you say, Carrie?
I think Post Road, like, you mean like
You can-
parking on
you
Post
can-
Road?
You can park on the post road. You can park in the harbor and walk the perimeter to get to the dog park.
Yeah, but it's
That
not-
may
that
not be
doesn't make it
convenient,
It's not
but-
convenient, so.
but I would be willing to do it if it meant I had a dog park.
Well, I think
It's,
one of
it's
the
how
things,
bad you want the dog park.
I think that this is sort of how we got kind of off track at the last meeting
Yeah.
where we were talking too much about specific sites. So I think
Yeah.
what we need to figure out is identify the likely sites that we could have dog parks and then figure out the pros and cons of all of them.
Mhm.
Some of them may be, they need more site work, they need less site work, they need parking, there might be a vista where you can't put a fence, that may be an issue in Harbor Island. So I think that if we can just, and I think if we look at the Stratford plan, that's in that big dossier, and they really had a pretty good list of what their criteria were for evaluating, and they evaluated a lot of properties. Stratford's a much bigger community. So maybe if we could set up a methodology for what we want to think about, make a spreadsheet even, and people take individual parks to try and get those answers straight. One thing we have to figure out is it's very, very expensive for Rye City to supervise the dog park in the dog, I guess it's not really a dog park, but the free dog run at Rye Town Park. So they spend a lot of money on enforcement. And so that's a budget item that we need to think about.
Can you repeat what you just said? Because you froze on me. I didn't hear what you said. It's very expensive, and that's all I got.
The enforcement,
for park enforcement.
So
Okay.
Rye City enforces the rules in Rye Town Park because Rye Town Park is within the city of Rye. So it's something that it's part of their police budget. The police chief is the person we would need to talk to. So I think we want to sort of look at all the parks, see what we think is good and what we think we might want to do, and then just really get the numbers on it. Like, how much is this going to cost? Can the village actually enforce a 2-hour thing in the morning in Harbor Island Park?
Right.
They don't enforce it now, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who's out there enforcing people keeping their dogs on the leash at Harbor Island, even on the West Basin or on the East Basin?
But I mean,
I see people off leash with their dogs all the time.
Jason actually is.
Jason's been doing it.
I love you, Jason, but I see people there all the time with dogs off leash that are running on like the soccer fields. And I'm not talking about the goose dogs.
Constantly. And I was in Rushmore today and there was a dog off leash. The woman was throwing a Frisbee with her dog and the dog was super well behaved. And I told her that the dog had to be on a leash. And, you know, we discussed that it's hard for her her dog likes to run. Yeah. And
I think
she doesn't have a football field for her dog to run on. So.
Right.
I think what happens when you create a space for people to and give it to them and say, okay, between these hours, you know, you can do that here. It becomes very self-policing. I know that that's happened at Rye Town Park. You know, there is a whole Facebook group. And, you know, I know a lot of the people who walk there every single day with their dogs, and they are super on top of it. And if they see anything that's not right, you know, they have no problem stepping up to somebody and very respectfully and saying, you know, hey, you know, we really want to keep this resource. So can you please do X, Y, and Z, you know, or don't, you know, pick up after your dog, you know, or, you know, don't go near the duck pond that's there. You know, there are certain rules and regulations, and people really do, for the most part, stick to them. I think what you're seeing at Harbor Island is there's nowhere to take your dog, so they're just going to take advantage where they can.
Yeah, Mers, I totally agree with that, and I agree with this self-policing aspect of it. Having taken my dogs to Playland Beach and to Rye Town Park, people do speak up. If you see someone who doesn't pick up after their dog, you go, hey, I don't know if you saw, but your dog pooped over there. You know, do you have a bag? I have an extra one if you don't. You know, people are very, because the people that really want it and care about it don't want it taken away. And that's really what it comes down to. So you do have a lot of self-policing. I totally agree.
So should we, I think, do we want to, so we have another 45 minutes, but do we want to sort of set up, we need to set up one, I think one of the people on Parks and Rec has to like be willing to be the chair, just to sort of keep us all in line. But do we want to try and, you know, divvy up parks, figure out what the first task would be, whether it's like methodology or just divide into smaller groups and figure out how to get things done?
Well, besides Taylor's Lane and the harbor, I don't think there was any other lot or piece of property that was village owned that we could put a dog park at, not open the park up to dogs, but put an actual park at. Does anybody know of any other piece of property that they think would be feasible to create a dog park? Because I don't know any other property in the village that is open like that, besides the harbor and Taylor's Lane.
Piece of land next to Taylor's Lane, is that considered Taylor's Lane that Jason mentioned?
No.
That was not, okay. So what is that called? so that I know that we're not referring.
Greenhaven. It's
It's
called
Greenhaven Road.
Greenhaven
Road.
Okay. So Greenhaven Road, right? Is
Greenhaven Road, yeah.
Also, it sounds like.
Right across from TD Bank.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jason, didn't PRC vote to put the dog park there, or at the last meeting, didn't they have some kind of an action?
It was just to form this committee to figure out where to put a dog park.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
So-
there any way we can get an official, like,
The only thing I want to say about Rushmore Avenue. Does anybody have any idea how big they're gonna make this park? How wide, how long?
Well, I think it would depend on the piece of land you're looking to put it at.
Well, you got
You know,
you got
that
plenty of
section over
property.
there isn't a square, which I actually happen to like because it kind of curves around to the side. Whereas Taylor's Lane, I mean, Taylor's Lane, you know, that's 8 acres. You don't need 8 acres to create a dog park. So I think it depends on the piece of property that we're looking at
There
as far
was
as how
also-
big it is.
There was also one piece, which I know Barry didn't like, that Carlo brought up at the harbor.
I don't like that piece either, Tina.
You know what? I think can I just bring it back? It's not whether we like things or don't like things. These are proposed, these are sites people
I know.
have. So we need to evaluate them on their merits, not about, you know, whether we like them or not, because people are
It's
going
not, I
to,
don't like it.
What?
It's not, I don't like it. It is
people
just
are going to continue to throw these sites out. So, I mean, like, talk about it.
I think that we
Can I
all need to
suggest
take,
something?
we need to go to the locations and as a team and go out there and see what we're really looking at.
That's
The
what I-
locations that we're talking about.
I think that we should start off by getting a tour of these places together, so we can
Yeah.
all see everything the same way, and
Mhm.
then go from there.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Okay.
I just want to
Can I
read
add-
through the, I want to read through the dog consultant proposal before we kind of like know what other criteria we may want to put in for a dog park. So I just haven't had a chance to look at this until this just got sent out.
I mean, you really do need to have a larger area than you probably think that you need, because they're really, for any good dog park, you really have to have a large dog area and a small dog area. You have to have an ante-room sort of thing where when you first walk in, it's, you know, Portchester, Carrie. I
Yep,
mean,
yeah.
they really did a great job there. And they even have
Fantastic.
that whole timeout area is like unique to that park in this area. And that has been invaluable. I mean, I've used that park many times. It's
How big
really-
is that park? Do you know?
I don't really know what the square.
I don't know
footage
the acreage on that park, but it is large. It's deceptive because it goes
Right, there's a lot.
downhill, so you don't really realize how big it is. But I put my dog in that timeout part because if I ran into a dog I wasn't happy with in the big part, I said, okay, let me just bring my dog, even though she wasn't the one who needed to be in there.
So
I put my dog in there.
Yeah.
Portchester specifically, from our research, the village didn't give me a size because I don't think they were quite honestly sure, but they did tell me that 25 dogs max in the large area and 15 dogs max in the small area is about what it could fit. That's what
Yeah,
Portchester
that was
told
my
me.
next question. How many?
Yeah.
dogs?
And then 5 dogs in the timeout area. That's the list that Portchester gave me. And you'll see that on the research.
Yeah, and it's on their rules. But anytime anytime I've ever been there, there's never been 25 dogs there. There have been,
Oh.
you know, maybe a dozen, but never 25.
Yeah.
Once in a while, I see somebody in the timeout area, and sometimes there's maybe 2 or 3 dogs in the little dog area.
Right.
So-
you
But
do
I don't
need
know how
to-
big it is.
Yeah, I don't know either, but you do definitely need to, you know, leave room for that type of scenario. That's really the only kind of a responsible dog park that I would, you know, suggest you guys, you know, make.
Yeah, you need the double gated entry so that you have a kind of like a little
Very important.
spot for them to get
Yeah.
in.
Right.
And let other dogs, because what happens is a new dog comes into a dog park and some dogs want to greet them and say hi, and maybe your dog gets really overwhelmed by that and they don't want 3 or 4 dogs coming up to them initially. So you do need that little
Mhm.
entrance area for sure.
And the consultant recommended about an acre. They said that we shouldn't build a dog park under an acre.
That's pretty standard. Harrison's is not an acre, I know that. They're like a postage.
Well, the consultant didn't say we can't do it. The consultant recommended that we don't
Recommended.
choose a site that's less than an acre.
I do agree with that. Dogs need room. Dogs need room to run and play and also to get away. You know, if they're not liking who they're playing with, they need. That's why Playland Beach is so great because it's so big, and dogs can go on either end, and there's room towards the water and there's room towards the wall. I mean, you know, it's also a good setup, even though you don't have different fenced-in areas. It's so huge it doesn't really matter. But I agree with actually physically going to the sites that we're looking at and that have come up, And I do have to just touch base on Florence Park because that's been a huge issue. I am 100% in opposition to creating a dog park within Florence Park.
Yep.
It just
Carrie,
I don't think
you'll
that
have
was
the
ever an idea.
same opposition at Rushmore. Those people who live
no,
there
I
will
don't
have
mean
a
that,
serious.
Jerry. I
Oh.
mean, I don't think Florence Park is, whereas
don't
I
think
think
so either.
Rushmore is a nice area for a dog park,
Yeah.
I don't think Florence Park is appropriate at all.
Oh, I see.
But
So
that was never an idea that we all discussed. We only were talking about letting the dogs walk in there, not.
Yes.
Yeah,
correct.
right.
That was a whole different, that was an
On
idea
Facebook,
that
it
some,
got a little crazy.
It got out of control, but I
Yeah.
bring it up because I know we've received some recent emails with people
Yeah.
in support of a dog park at Florence Park. And
No, that's
it's
not a good
just
idea.
That's
not a
not
good space.
happening. Yeah, it can't happen.
It's not a good
There's
idea.
so many other, too
well,
many.
there's
Too many
absolutely,
uses.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's too many uses and there's absolutely no parking. But,
Yeah.
so,
Nora, I wanted to bring up the fact that where I used to work, when we built the dog park, before we built the dog park, we were concerned about how to regulate residents and non-residents. And so what we did was we tied the access to the dog park to the dog license. So if the residents had a dog license, they came into Village Hall, they paid for their dog license, we would give them a key fob when they paid for the dog license, and that key fob was good to access the dog park. And so they had this key fob, and it maintained. Now, of course, people can pass a key fob from one person to the next, but you risk losing the key fob, and you also risk the fact that the electronic locks that we had at this location monitored who used the park and who didn't use the park, as well as if there was an incident with the dog. And because it wasn't monitored, we got a report that another dog, a dog bit another dog, and then that owner took off. We would have the ability to find out who that owner was because the key fobs were electronically,
Unique.
marked. Yeah, unique, right?
right.
Were
And
they
so that's how we
to
did.
the dog license, Jerry? Like where
You have a
that's
dog
smart.
license. Yeah, you have a dog license and you get a key fob and you get to use the dog park. And we kept out of towners out. And it was plenty. It was a 2.5 acre park, and it was a 1/2 acre for small dogs and 2 acres for large dogs. It was mostly wooded on the large dog side. And we went in there and we would mow it, occasionally, but really wooded areas really don't grow too high. And we had that we had that what I call the lobby, where we would let the dog come in, and then you'd have a double gate.
Yeah.
And all we did was make sure that the trash cans were cleaned or emptied several times a week, and that we sent the seasonal or the part-time park employee in there to clean up after whoever didn't clean up after their dog. But we didn't have it monitored. We never did. And it worked out fine. And it was a great resource. So we built it all ourselves, and we cleared the lot ourselves as well too for some of the trees. So what you do is when you have a wooded lot, you just take out the smaller trees and you leave the larger trees. And all of a sudden you have this, what looks like a beautiful, wooded backyard. And it works out really well for the dogs to run around because they love running around the trees. They run through the trees like a little maze. So they just go crazy. And it was easy. The little dogs, we didn't have any trees on that side of the lot, but the big dogs, they really loved the fact that, and the owners loved the fact that there was shade, because in 90-degree temperature, you go to a dog park and you're sitting on a bench watching your dog run around and you're baking in the sun.
Right.
So, and Jason can provide you the links to the dog park that I built. And Jason, you might be able to get an aerial now of that dog park.
Yeah,
when you look up Moss Mill Road and share it with them. I'm gonna split. I'm sorry, I have a 7:30 meeting I have to prepare for. But obviously, whenever you need me, just let me know.
Jerry, before you go, can I ask a question? If none of these spots are big enough, could we do 2, like one for the large dogs, one for the small dogs, in 2 different locations, or is that like too much to ask?
No, you could, except I have seen a lot of people walking two dogs, and one of them's large and one of them's small. And so
That's
you're
true.
kind of splitting up the family. And but if you do them side by side, you end up having just one location for Barry's guys to go to, police it, clean it all up. And what I want to endorse is I want to endorse the Greenhaven side because it's more than 1 acre. It's behind Mangone's and next to TD Bank. And I understand that there's some residents there, but a lot less than I think the residents at the Rushmore side are going to be opposed to it. So it's also a good spot for us to build a gravel parking lot, that Barry and I can build a gravel parking lot right off the road. And I think there's a lot less.
Jeff.
Yeah, I think it is. But you'll see it when you guys go there. You'll see it feels right to me, and it might feel right to you, I hope.
Is there like a map where Jason, where you could like send us a map of that area and just outline in red what that piece of property actually looks like? Because it's hard to tell where it ends, like, and what's usable, because then you get to that first house. So
what I'll do is I'll send you a Google image overview, and I'll highlight the area, and then I'll also send you the survey, like the survey that the engineering people do, and then I'll highlight that so you can see on the survey of Taylor's Lane the area that we're talking about.
Exactly where it is. Okay. Yeah, that would be helpful just to visualize size-wise and what the shape of that property is.
Are you talking about Taylor's Lane or Greenhaven?
Greenhaven.
Right.
Taylor's Lane is easy. That's just a big open square.
Is on the survey. The Taylor's Lane survey has the Greenhaven part of it. It has the post, so it's part of that where we could see.
They actually abut, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
But there's a giant fence that cuts between the two. You know what I mean? It's all fenced in.
Okay.
That sounds good to look at everything. Now, do we want to?
I think we should set up a time.
Go together? Do we want to go in,
I think
different
we should
groups?
go, if we could go in a group, that would be great. So we could all, discuss it. And if we can, I know everybody's busy, but.
Well, if we can't all go at the same time, we can just, whoever can go on their own, just so at least they can see for themselves and maybe come up with, everyone should come up with their own pros and cons for each lot that we're going to investigate.
Right.
But do you want to?
Should we have a due date? Like we should all go before a certain date?
Well, I think the sooner the better, so that at least we can get working on our list of, okay, this lot is this big and it looks like we could put parking here, or we can fence it this way. This lot needs trees removed. So yeah, I think the sooner we can all go check them out, the better. And am I correct in saying that the places we're going to look at are the Greenhaven piece of land, the Taylor's Lane piece of land, the Rushmore spot, and also the spot, Barry, that Carlo had brought up, which is by the harbor master, correct?
No, he was actually talking about down behind the flagpole.
Where the cell tower is.
The cell tower is there?
Isn't it where like it juts out, like at the end of the beach, all the way down at the end of the beach, right?
No. He wasn't talking about the end of the beach, because he's talking where the cell tower is. He's talking about in the back where the cell tower is. It's a big piece of property.
It's behind Barry's building.
It's behind our building. The only thing not that I don't want it there, but from my experience of where Harbor Island is used and walking and everything, that's a sore eye. Once you build this thing, it's a sore eye with all the benches, the view of the boats, and all of that stuff. I see that as an area where it's used for walking and stuff like that. That's also another area that we were looking to put the volleyball nets in. Okay.
Yeah, no, I remember you saying that at our other meeting. Jason, can you highlight that area too, whatever you send us?
Of the flagpole?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just so we also see how much space and where exactly it is, so everyone knows.
And then for all these areas, figure out what else the village might want to be doing with the property, what the like what the restrictions we have are, what the parking is, just so that we are comparing like apples to apples.
Yeah.
I also think that the board and you guys should get together and talk with Nora and pick a date out so we all can go. I mean, as soon as possible it is, so we can start moving on this.
During daylight.
Yep.
I mean, I can go as soon as tomorrow, so if anybody can go tomorrow.
I can't go during the day, I'm working, but I can go late
What's the
afternoon.
earliest that
Does-
people can,
does-
what's the earliest time frame that people can go?
Does Thursday work for everybody as well as tomorrow? Like around the same time that we got on this call, like 5:30, 6?
That does not work for Carrie, and I think we have something on Thursday.
Not on
I
Thursday.
can't do Thursday either. Oh,
I'm free all day Friday.
I can do Fridays, end of day, end of day.
I can do Friday.
like Friday at 5:30?
Me too.
Like I said, I'm free all day Friday, so anytime
Is
would
that
work.
terrible for Barry and Jason? Or we just
It
go
is
without you?
terrible, but it's my job.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Or can everybody do a little bit earlier on Friday, like 4 o'clock? or
Yeah,
is that-
I would.
Yeah.
I could do earlier.
I would
could do-
prefer earlier on Friday.
4 o'clock? 4 o'clock on Friday?
Or it's
Sure.
good
I
for
was
me.
gonna say-
Perfect.
Is that better, Jason?
Yeah, actually,
Yeah,
that's
it's
actually
better.
better because between going from site to site, 4 o'clock, by the time you're done, it's like 5 maybe.
Oh, so we're gonna start at Taylor Lane?
Start,
I
we'll
would say
we'll go
let's
from
start-
left to right or right to left. Pick a
Start at
direction.
I would say let's-
Go to
say let's go
Greenhaven,
to
Taylor's
Taylor's Lane
Lane, then the harbor, and then.
No, then
Rushmore.
Greenhaven first, Barry, because that's first. We'll go to
Yeah,
Greenhaven,
Greenhaven,
Taylor's
Taylor's
Lane.
I would-
Can we actually get on Taylor's Lane? I mean, it's
I
capped.
don't know. We can, Bear?
Yeah, we
Yeah, you can
can.
get out there.
Okay.
Okay.
The fence is
There's-
broken.
The fence is
Fence
broken.
again.
The fence has a
Broken
hole.
again, And
We're just gonna hop a fence.
is there any way to get a survey of where the cat at Taylor Lane? Do we have that?
Yeah, we do. I think
We
I
do.
sent it you guys in the Taylor's Lane survey. It tells
Yeah,
you
it's on there.
like
Mhm.
Oh,
cap,
okay.
cap. It does list it. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
So maybe, do you guys have a big printer? Hernani had the big printer, right? That's
Her
Jerry.
nanny does. In the engineering office, I don't know how to use it, but maybe somebody in the village can show me.
All right, so I'm gonna see if we can get a couple of bigger prints of it so we can actually look at it, because it's very hard to read the
Yeah,
8.5 by 11.
It's a big print.
I'll work
yeah.
on that. And who wants to be chairperson?
I didn't, Cindy, didn't you say you were gonna?
I don't
be
care,
chair?
but I think if you want to do it, Carrie, I nominate you.
I'm already chair of the Coyote Committee. I got my
Oh.
hands full.
Okay.
That's fine. I'll chair it if
Okay.
nobody else wants to.
Well,
I can take minutes.
Congratulations, thank you.
You got the job.
Great.
Do we have
Lucky
to,
me.
do we have to officially make that motion? I'm learning on the Coyote
No,
Committee how
we
to do
don't
things.
have to, because we are not a formal committee, like you're.
Okay.
This is a subcommittee, so it's only 3 people from another committee, so we're kind of loosier-goosier.
Okay. Do we still
And,
want minutes though, Nora?
if somebody wants to take minutes, it would be good. I think we
great
could get a transcript of the Zoom, but that's like a court reporter's transcript. So if we can just if we could take turns taking minutes, so
I
we
took
have a,
notes.
that'd be great.
Okay, I'll do this one. And if, we
Okay.
can rotate through if we want.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think
Great.
we're
So
gonna be a
we-
real efficient committee.
I think so.
I think so.
Sometimes the
so
subcommittees are.
4 o'clock Friday, right? Correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
4 o'clock
Yeah.
Where are we
Friday.
meeting? Wait, so we're gonna meet at what location?
We're gonna start at the Greenhaven
Greenhaven.
site.
Okay. Alrighty. So 4 o'clock, meet at the Greenhaven site.
Where do we park?
Just park right on the
TD Bank.
side. You'll be all
TD
right.
Bank? I'm a customer at TD Bank, so I can
Okay.
park there.
You'll be okay.
Jason, are you gonna circulate the actual sites so we can see where everything is? Did you say you were circulating that?
Yeah, I'm gonna create map. I'll create like a Google overhead of Greenhaven, Taylor's Lane, Rushmore, and the flagpole.
That would be
Okay.
great.
So you
Perfect.
guys can see it from the air.
Perfect.
I
All
can
right,
walk
Ms.
over. I can walk over. Can I catch a ride with someone to the other sites? If other people are driving.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Problem.
Okay.
Okay, good.
So do we need to discuss anything else, or do we have to?
I mean, I guess the question is, you guys can, have to be so formal. I mean, I think the next step is start making a list and evaluating, and that doesn't require a meeting.
Okay.
So do you want to set a meeting for like, I mean, do we want to set a meeting for like 2 or 3 weeks, or do we want to just wait and do it via email? Our constraint is we have to check with Sally to make sure there's nothing else going,
Right.
because we have to meet via Zoom.
I think that we should meet on Friday and then decide on Friday if we need another meeting in 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. And meanwhile, and everybody has all the materials, and if we need to print them out, we can get, I'm sure Sally would print them for us. So if anybody wants copies of anything, let me know, and I'll bring it Friday.
Okay.
The map.
Okay, sounds good.
And just for, I remember just concerns about money. If there is concern, when I mentioned that to neighbors, quite a few of them said that they would be happy to just contribute. They thought, like, is that a problem for neighbors to contribute to the dog park, whatever? Yeah.
I don't think it is. I think we have to, like, the Arts Council has a fund, and the Marine Center has a fund. We just have to set up an account for it, because you can make a contribution to a municipality. I think it's not tax deductible if you restrict what it's for, but you may be able to just give it to a general, dog fund. So we'll check on that. That's nice, right? That's a nice problem to have, right?
Yeah. People who want to donate.
Yeah, and volunteers, if you need volunteers and whatever. Well, I mean, it sounds like the village can do a lot of it, but if they're, yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine Girl Scouts and whatever other groups wanting to, help out. So
That's a great
Good
idea.
Girl
Community
Scout
service hours.
It's a good Girl Scout Silver Award project, right?
Oh, yeah. That would be
Oh, yeah.
The
great.
Girl Scouts were in the park today doing some sort of scavenger hunt. I saw
Oh,
them
yeah?
at their clipboards. Yep. They're doing something.
So cute.
They are.
great.
Okay, good.
All right.
This is a
All
great.
right.
Thank you.
So we'll see everybody on Friday. Today is Tuesday. I will do my best to get you those maps by Thursday. So keep a lookout in your emails. And if anyone didn't receive my email from when the beginning of the start is with all those documents, let me know and I'll forward you them. But try to look through them. The research one is particularly good. There's more information to be added there, I think, but it's a good start if we want to know what other folks are doing. So.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
All right, guys.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Bye,
opening
everybody.
us. We
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you Friday.
Okay.